What does Mitch Marner's next contract look like? Should the Canucks be worried about Thatcher Demko's injury? And are the Sens ready to take the leap? Hey, everyone. Welcome into Off the Post. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun sports columnist Steve Simmons, Postmedia hockey columnist Bruce Garrioch, and Canucks reporter for the Vancouver Sun and the Province, Patrick Johnston. And the band is back together, which means NHL training camps are right around the corner, set to begin in the next couple of weeks here. So thought it would be a perfect time to catch up on what's going on in everyone's respective markets. And we'll start in Toronto with Steve and Mitch Marner. Steve, heading into the final year of his contract. We know that Leon Draisaitl just signed an extension for $14 million a season. Do you think that deal has any say on what Marner and company will be looking for from either the Leafs or maybe another team if he ultimately hits free agency?
Well, what Marner and company are looking for and what reality is might be two different things. But we know that Draisaitl is getting $14 million, which means Marner's stopping point might be 12, might be 11. He's at 10-9 now. So I don't know how much room there is for him to move up. He can't pass Austin Matthews. He may not be able to pass William Nylander. So I think he's going to end up in the 11s somewhere and in a long-term kind of deal. And if he's willing to accept that, probably he will sign long-term with the Leafs. If he's not willing to accept that, then they might look elsewhere.
There was a contract here in Vancouver that I think might have some bearing. It was Elias Pettersson, who's starting his 8-year deal, $11.6 million. And, it comes to where do you compare Mitch Marner to Elias Pettersson? And they're at least comparable. And obviously Marner's been in the league longer. So, yeah, to me, it's more what range is Marner in? I mean, he's obviously not in the Draisaitl conversation, but he's in the top end for sure.
I look at Mitch Marner and I say, one of the things that Draisaitl can point to is playoff success, with his team having playoff success. Mitch Marner has 50 points in 57 playoff games, which on the surface looks pretty good if you're just looking at numbers. But Steve and Rob, you've seen this way more than me and Patrick, but reality isn't in those numbers, right? Reality is Mitch Marner has been a massive underachiever in the playoffs, and I think he can't make huge demands to go much higher because he doesn't have the success behind him. The Edmonton Oilers have made some steps with Leon Draisaitl, and sure, they got a great supporting cast, but I think that Marner has a hard time pointing to the success rate that a guy like Draisaitl has.
Well, Draisaitl is 1.45 points a game in the playoffs. People who have done better than that are named Gretzky, Lemieux, and McDavid.
Amazing.
We're talking history of hockey here. We're talking all-time great playoff performers.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think in a game you had to win in the playoffs, Game 6, Game 7, need this game. Has Mitch Marner dominated? Never. He's not done that. And I think one of the reasons they're not going to sign him during the season, or I suspect they're not going to sign him during the season, they want to see 1 year of Craig Berube. They want to see what does he do with a new coach in a new situation with his back against the wall. What does he do now? And I think they'll look and see what does he do in the playoffs and then act accordingly based on that.
All right, over in Vancouver, there's a lot of interest, Patrick, in the status of goalie Thatcher Demko, who was injured late last year and is reportedly still dealing with his mysterious ailment. What is the latest on Demko as we inch closer towards training camp?
I've had more than a few people ask me in recent days, who is the goalie for the Vancouver Canucks? Because, of course, Artur Shilovs was dealing with a knee inflammation issue that kept him out of Latvia's Olympic qualifying tournament a couple weeks ago. Shilovs has been on the ice. We've seen him on the ice. We haven't talked to him, but we've seen him. He appears to be back on course. I don't think there was necessarily any concern that it was going to be a big issue, but there was a notion that maybe he needed a rest a little bit. Maybe he was working a little too hard this summer. The Demko story is, I don't know if strange the word. I mean, in the end, he was hurt at the end of the season. He was hurt at the end of the playoffs. So, of course, it was going to be a topic going into the season, no matter what we knew or didn't know. But the fact that we do not know conclusively how his summer has gone. Did he have a procedure? Everyone seems to think so, but nobody's actually been able to confirm that. Has he been delayed in his preseason prep? Everyone seems to think so, but nobody's saying anything. We're kind of playing wait and see for when training camp opens in Penticton 2 weeks or 10 days from now. whether he'll even be there. But the question now is, how many games are they going to get out of him this season? How realistic do they have to be? This guy, when he's on his game, is one of the league's best goalies. But the fundamental truth is that I think 3 seasons in a row, he's been dealing with an injury. He's missed time. There is a durability question. Some of it is just age and the realities of the position they play. Some of it is the sort of the dedication to his craft. Everyone talks about how hard he practices. There is an element of that in the discussion. The Canucks have changed goalie coaches. Ian Clark, who'd been here for a long time, and very much the goalie whisperer here, a guy who has a long, long track record in the NHL, nonetheless was looking to change his role somewhat. And it seems like the Canucks said, well, hey, yeah, you can step way back. And they're going a new course. We'll see how it plays out and whether the way that Demko is guided may have any difference here. But certainly big question mark going into training camp.
There are 2 kinds of goalies for my money in the NHL. There's the guys who have to be perfect physically to be able to play. And they don't want their shoulder hurting, and they don't want their knee hurting, they don't want their hip hurting. They have to be very healthy. And then you get the Grant Fuhr types who just pop their shoulders back in to play tomorrow night and wind up playing 73 games. And they're, in fairness, they're too dumb to know better at the time. They just medically do it and don't care what the doctors say and all that. And so, but in today's world, that goalie doesn't exist as much. And so you see more of the Demko types. And in Toronto, we've seen it with Joseph Wall, and we've seen it with other people over the years, Freddie Anderson. Vancouver Canucks started last season. They were 10-3. That included 3 wins over the Oilers, a win over Dallas, a win over Florida. We're talking big-time hockey to start that season. Why was some of that? Demko was outstanding. And
100%.
They don't have him playing at that level. And I'm a Shilov's guy. I think he's going to be a very good NHL goalie. But they don't have that to start. How does that impact the defense? How does that impact the forwards? How does that impact everything else? It's not, you want to start the way they started last year and build some room and some time for yourself. And they won't be able to do that if Demko isn't able to play the majority of the games.
And well, you can shroud people in mystery, Patrick, but not knowing if your number 1 goalie is going to be on the ice the first day of training camp, it's quite a mystery to head into training camp with, isn't it? I mean, has he been seen at the informal skates or?
Nope, haven't seen.
There you go.
He's invisible. Or if he's invisible. And just to Steve's point, I mean, 2 seasons ago, the second half of Bruce Boudreau's year in charge, the Demko was terrible. I mean, that literally is your comparison. He was terrible. They weren't off to a terrible start solely because of Demko, but it was a huge issue. They need that goalie. Obviously, it is enough of a concern here that we certainly know that there have been approaches made to the likes of Kevin Lankinen, and whether they've talked to anybody else, we're not sure. Antti Ranta's name came up last week, but I think more the fact that he's just available. They seem likely, or certainly their preference, I think, would be to have another goalie come into training camp. I don't think they want to sign anyone, given what their cap situation was. I mean, Jim Rutherford made that pretty clear to me last week, that they don't want to start the season in LTIR. They want to accrue cap space. They want to be able to add players as the season progresses, because they think they're going to be back in it. I mean, this was a team that pushed the Oilers all the way to 7 games, maybe could have won that game 7. They feel they're close, but as Steve said, they're not going to be anywhere if their goalie's not healthy.
Antti Ranta, not a name I was expecting to hear in this video today. Lastly, Bruce, the Senators have been busy this offseason trying to remake their roster. That includes deals for Nick Jensen from Washington, for Jacob Chychrun, and of course, Linus Ullmark from Boston. A lot of NHL observers keep expecting this team to take the next step. Could this finally be the year that they actually challenge for a playoff spot?
Well, I think it has to be. And I believe that, potential has to turn to production here. And if you're going to convince Linus Ullmark to stay, he's in the final year of his contract, then you've got to show him that you've got a competitive team in front of him. Look, the Ottawa Senators gave up 20 goals last year on the first 2 shots in 22 games. So that's actually 22 goals. Look, that's not system. That's just bad goaltending. And if Linus Ullmark can make the saves, then they'll be in better shape, but they also have to play better in front of them. And they're hoping that the addition of Nick Jensen, the addition of a veteran like David Perron, and the other changes that they've made as far as signing Michael Amadio and signing Nick Cousins, that these changes will help push the likes of Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle to take this team to the playoffs. They've missed for 7 straight springs. Quite frankly, it has to, or it's time to start striking at the core of this team.
Well, they're about 15 points out, I figure, from where they were last year to where they need to be certain in the playoffs. And the difficulty isn't getting the points, although that is difficult by itself. It's that you're now in a battle with Jersey and Pittsburgh and Washington and Detroit and Buffalo and Montreal and whomever else I'm missing here for basically 2 spots. So there's about 8 or 9 teams fighting for 2 spots, because I don't think the Leafs are missing, or the Bruins are missing, or the Tampa's missing, or Florida's missing, or the Rangers or Carolina. I think those 6, you can pencil those 6 in right now. It's who are the other 2? And which of those 2 make the jump from 80 to 92, or from 78 to 92, or whatever the number is? That's what the Senators have to do. And boy, they better be good in head-to-heads, playing Jersey and Philly and Pittsburgh and Washington in those games. You have to win those games.
Just in the numbers and cents, Bruce, just to add to what you were saying, you talk about the 22 goals against, that were first or second shot of the game. The Senators were minus 26 in goals for and against last season. You take away some of those goals, that gets them closer to that group that Steve's talking about, but still, even the likes of the Red Wings and the Sabres were at least, +2, +4. You're looking at the Penguins, you're looking at teams in that range. The Capitals and Islanders, I'm pretty skeptical of, but in the end, it's a dogfight. And are the Senators in that range? I think so. I don't think they're on the top end of their division, that's for sure.
Well, as always, let us know your thoughts on all of these topics in the comments section below. For Steve Simmons, Bruce Garrioch, and Patrick Johnston, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.